Hello beautiful people, welcome back to the channel. Pots and Petals here, everything garden and allotment related. It is Saturday morning and I think we're in for quite a lovely day today. So the skies are blue and the sun is shining and the birds know a nice day's on the way because they're singing their absolute hearts out this morning. So yeah, we're going to try and get as many jobs done today because we are due quite a bit of rain overnight tonight, so that might saturate the ground a little bit tomorrow. So I've had a little scout around and we've got loads of beds that still need a little bit of a weed ready for winter, so we're going to clear a few of those today. And I've also had a check on the beetroot and they're huge, so we're going to harvest those before they get a little bit too woody. Now we are going to end up taking home about 50 to 60 beetroot, so any recipe ideas please let me know. I know a few of you have said to dehydrate it, but I haven't got a dehydrator. So any other recipes, honestly, stick them in the comments below because I'm going to need them. The blanket weed in the pond, that started to go crazy again because we have had quite a bit of sunlight over the last couple of weeks. So I'm going to get brave and dip my fingers in there. It's going to be quite nippy, but we'll try and give that a good clear out because now is a great time to be doing lots of maintenance on the pond because you're not going to have that many animals and insects sort of in the pond at this time of year. Grass paths, they seem to have just grown over the last couple of weeks as well, so I want to try and let them dry out a little bit and then we might give them a mow this afternoon if we've got a bit of time. And another really big job that I have to do this time of year, and that's redo the paths. So on one side of my plot I've got lovely grass paths and on the other side I've got wood chip, and it does take me a couple of weeks to be able to wood chip the entire one side. So hopefully if we've got a little bit of time towards the end I can get a few barrow loads down here and just make a start on it. As always, I'm sure there's going to be lots of other little bits that we'll crack on with, but you know what? I need a nice cup of coffee, warm myself up, and then we'll start cracking on. You guys might remember that I had a wasp nest in this compost heap, but it looks like I've now got some sort of mammal living in here. So there's loads of digging that's been going on since I was last down, and that hole is actually quite big, so I'm not too sure what the hell could be living in there. Any ideas, guys? I don't know if I dare stick my hand in. Don't think it's going to be a fox, but definitely not a badger. A rabbit maybe? I don't think rats make holes this big. I know we've got plenty of rats, but I don't think we've got rats the size of cats. So yeah, I will definitely be going home and doing some investigating tonight to understand what the hell has made this little home. On the plus side, just look at all of that compost in there. So this is all from the compost heap, and it's been rotting down over a good 2 or 3 years, and that's the sort of crumbly texture that you want to get to before you start sticking it on your bed. So we'll start looking at giving these a turn over the next month, and then we can start topping up all of the beds with all of this nutrient rich compost. So I did have some parsnips in this bed, but then the sunflowers seem to have taken over, so it hasn't really been used that much over the summer months. And you can see I've got loads of weeds in there and the grass has really started to take over. So let's get in here and give it a real good weed over, and I think I might even give it a dig because I have been standing on this bed to get to the pear tree and that soil might be a little bit compacted. So we'll give it a weed and then a good old fork over. That's looking a little bit tidier now. I've given that a real good fork over, and I did find some garlic in there as well. So we'll leave them in and hopefully we'll get a few extra plants from those. And that bit just at the end, you can see I've left the grass. Well, I'm going to bark chip over that because I do use this little area as a bit of a rat run onto both plots. So it does get stood on quite a bit. So we'll bark chip that little bit, and we'll also clear out that little tub at the end. And then just behind there, everything's looking a little bit of a mess. So we might as well go and give that a tidy up as well. You're probably wondering why I haven't weeded this area, but what I do find is once I mulch the top with a load of the wood chip, that will weaken and kill off a lot of the weeds in there anyway, and anything that does grow through is going to be a lot easier to remove then than it is now. So I'm just going to mulch a new little path over here, and then we'll give that wooden tub a bit of a weed over, and then we'll give the back a bit of a clear up as well. Hey, I'm chuffed with that little harvest. I totally forgot about those spuds in there. I reckon I've harvested a good 20 or 30, so they'll definitely last us for a couple of weeks. But yeah, it's great when you find some buried treasure. So these are actually new potatoes, salad potatoes, but they've got a little bit big because they've been left in there for quite a while. But if you have got any main crop potatoes, now is a really good time to start digging them up before we start getting those frosts. But also, leaving them in the ground, you're much more susceptible to get them eaten by the slugs. There we go, looking a lot neater and tidier. Now I have had to get rid of some of those sunflowers, but to be fair, a lot of the heads have been eaten by the rats and mice anyway, so they weren't going to feed the birds anymore. And then we've got 1, 2, 3 barrow loads full of the wood chip on here, and I have wood chipped this path as well, so you can see why it takes me so long to do the entire plot. Now I've mulched it with a good 2-3 inches of the wood chip, and that should stop any weeds from germinating and also stop the weeds underneath from growing anymore. Now they will start to grow through, but like I said earlier, they're going to be a lot easier to remove. It's probably 5% of the wood chip side done, and I've still got 95% to do, so we can think about doing that over the next couple of weeks. Next job on the list is to harvest these beetroot. They are starting to get quite big now, and once they start to get a little bit too big, they can go a little bit woody and they don't taste so good. So we'll see what we've got in here, but I do know some of them are enormous. think we're going to be all right on the beetroot front. Just look how many we've got down there. But I've picked out these three just to give you an idea of the type of beetroot that we had growing in the bed. So we'll start with this one. So this is cylindrica, and as you can see, it's got a nice long root on it and grows almost like a carrot. Now I grow these because these make great little discs, and they're really easy to chop into those round discs for when you start to pickle your beetroot. If you're not too fussed on pickling, it doesn't really matter what shape you get with your beetroot, but I do find these are really good if you like those nice round discs pickled. So we'll see if we can get in the kitchen over the next few days, and I'll show you how I pickle my beetroot to make it last several months. And then we've got these two here. Now these are the same beetroot, they're just different sizes. So if I was to pickle these, I would probably roast these whole and pickle them whole. Now they're beautiful on a salad, whereas this chunky one I would probably dice up after I've cooked it and then sink it into the vinegar. Like I say, I will try and do a video over the next few days of me pickling some of this beetroot because it is a great way to make it last a long time. I think I'm going to need an awful lot of jars to pickle all of those, so like I say, we'll probably give quite a few of these away to people. Now to take these home with us, we don't need to take all of these leaves. You can actually eat these leaves, but these are a little bit too old and a little bit too tough now. So all I'm going to do is just leave a couple of inches at the end, give it a twist, and then that's what you want to take home. Now don't try and remove them from right at the bottom because you could cause your beetroot to start bleeding. So just down here, these are the eanaia, and they're nice and spiky, but these spikes are actually the seeds, and the birds absolutely love them. So if you just give them a little bit of a rub, they should come off. Now the problem is they've got a little bit too wet here, so these aren't going to be any good to plant. But if you're a couple of weeks early, or if it's not too damp where you are, then you could sow these. So you might just make out in there, but we have got some of the broad beans that seem to be germinating, and it's only been a couple of weeks since they've been in. Now these are spring sown ones, so I'm doing a bit of an experiment by planting them in the autumn, but fingers crossed they should come on okay. Got a build up of the blanket weed on the left hand side. That is the shallower end, and that does seem to happen with all the sunshine that we've had, so we'll try and get as much of that out as possible. And also the lily, that's also starting to die back, so we'll remove some of the leaves in there as well before they start breaking down in the water. This time of year everything is starting to die back, so the iris over in the right hand side, the right corner, that's starting to die back, and also these little water lettuces, they should soon start to sink down to the bottom over winter and they'll pop back up in the spring. The colocasia in here is looking a little bit sad now, so this really doesn't like temperatures below 5 degrees, and we've been -1 in this polytunnel, but I mean the last few nights have been 1 or 2 degrees, so I think I'm going to take this guy home with me and hopefully overwinter him inside. One job I always seem to forget, especially in the autumn and the winter time, is watering inside the poly house. All of these seedlings and cuttings are starting to get a little bit dry because I've totally forgot, so I'm going to give these a little bit of a watering before I head home. So if you've been following me for a little while, you'll know that I built this shelf not too long ago actually, but the problem is I didn't paint the wood beforehand, and it is rough untreated wood. So that is a job that I want to try and get done over the coming weeks, just to protect it for a little bit longer so it doesn't rot off. You might not be able to see it, but that is starting to bow a little bit. Now Graham gave me a really good idea, rather than using the chains, to put a third leg in the middle here. So that is something that I want to try and do over the coming months, because the last thing I want is for that wood to split. And it does get quite heavy on there, especially with all the compost after watering. I also need to clear out these beds so that we can start planting something in here for over the winter period. Now, it's getting a little bit late in the year for things to germinate well, but we'll try some lamb's lettuce, some chard, and maybe some oriental greens as well. Now, depending on the weather tomorrow, it's either going to be a day down on the plot or I'm going to spend it in the kitchen. I'm not too sure yet, but if I am down here, I do want to try and give these paths a real good mulch. Given that we've already weeded them and they're looking a little bit tidier, it's just the paths that are making it look a little bit messy. So that's all we've got time for today, folks. It's been a really productive day. So we've managed to clear that bed out and also wood chip around there. So that's looking a lot neater and tidier. And the pond is also looking a lot clearer. We also had a surprise harvest of the potatoes and we've got tons of beetroot to take home. So depending on the weather, we're either going to be in the kitchen tomorrow and I'll show you how I pickle some of that beetroot, or we'll be back down here to get a few more jobs done down on the plot. I would like to try and get in the poly house and get that sorted so that we can start sowing some winter greens in there. There's still loads of little jobs that I need to get done around the plot, so I will be back tomorrow with an adventure one way or the other. But I hope you guys are having a lovely weekend wherever you are in the world. Don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, all of that good stuff, and I'll see you all again very soon. So take care, guys. See you later. Bye bye.